Here's 8 singles that I would suggest picking up either now or in the very close distant future. Now, it's been a little while since I've done a video on Pokemon card singles. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I really appreciate it. If you're new here though, predominantly I talk about sealed, but I've been dabbling into singles a fair bit more. And the reason I don't talk about singles all too much is because they're quite volatile. Look, don't get me wrong, you can make so much money off getting singles right. Like you can 10x your money in the space of 6 months if you wanted to. And look, you're not really going to be able to do that on a sealed product. Sealed is more that slow and steady race. So let's jump into 8 singles. And before we do, I just wanted to talk about the history around singles and I guess the volatility around it and maybe some sort of rhyme or reason as to why they go up. So let's rewind back to Sun and Moon era and look at some sets like Cosmic Eclipse. As we know, there's a lot of cards throughout Cosmic Eclipse that have shot up in value rapidly recently. None other than the main chase card inside their set there, the Zekrom and Reshiram. Look, the tag team era was fantastic. The card artwork was phenomenal. There's some beautiful looking Pokemon cards inside there and they deserve to jump up in price. But what it clearly shows us is that for a long period of time, a lot of cards can sit dormant. Like this card has 10x'd in price in as little as 2 years. That is some astronomical growth, and it's seen across the board in other cards from sets like Unified Minds. And even if we jump forward in time to some of the Sword and Shield sets, like if I were to jump into Fusion Strike for argument's sake and look at that Espeon for argument's sake sat around $90 forever and a day. Like that was just its price for a long period of time. And now look at the price on Espeon, the alternate artwork from Fusion Strike. So what it tells us is a few things. And I think these come into play when it comes to investing in singles. The first thing I would think about is, does the card have nice artwork? The second thing I would think about is, does it have a popular Pokemon inside it? The third thing I would think about is, how are the pull rates? So is it an easy pull or a tough pull? The fourth thing I would think about, and a lot of people talk about pop, like what's the PSA pop like? You know, how hard is it to gem into 10? Really, I think it comes down to supply and demand. Like Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies has a very heavy PSA 10 population. Like it's sitting around 17,000 PSA 10 copies. But there's so much demand for that card that it outweighs the supply. And as a result, we see an extremely expensive PSA 10 version of that card. So 4 things to think about. Does it have nice art? Is it a good Pokemon? What are the pull rates like? And what is the pop report like? Or more importantly, what's the supply and demand like for that Pokemon card? Because things can change, as we've clearly seen across the years with certain sets when it comes to Pokemon cards. So with all those things in play, the final thing to think about is rotation. There's a few Scarlet and Violet cards that will hop out of rotation second quarter next year. I think it's around April. So anything with the G letter in the bottom left-hand corner will be out of rotation. And in case you don't know what that means is they won't be in competitive play anymore. And once they're out of competitive play, the chances of those sets being reprinted is almost slim to none. That'll get us all the way up to, what does it get to? Paldean Fates, I think, is the last G lettered set before we got into the H lettered sets. So everything up to Paldean Fates, that includes 151, that includes Paradox Rift, that includes Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames, Scarlet and Violet Base, etc. So some really strong Pokemon card sets sitting inside there that'll be out of rotation. So for my money personally, let's jump into the 8 cards. These are 8 that I would choose. And look, I don't predominantly invest in singles, like I literally don't. I buy singles that I like and that's it. I don't use them as investments, but if I were to invest, thinking about all these sets, early Scarlet and Violet coming up to the end of rotation, I would use that metric or that logic that I talked about. Does it have nice art? Is it a good Pokemon card? Is it a good Pokemon? You know, what are the pull rates like? What's the pop report like? And you know, are these cards about to go out of rotation? Because typically once they go out of rotation, we sometimes can see an uptick in price. So if I was a gambling man, a betting man, I'm not saying these are definitely going up, but this is where I would put my money. Not that I will, but I would. And before we do that, the sponsor of today's video, of course, is the Collector app. I've actually got some merch from the guys now. So awesome app, link in the description to download it. All the imagery you see inside my videos is from Collector app. It's so easy to use. You put your whole sealed and singles collection in there. If you wanted to sign up to be a pro user, there's awesome giveaways each month. You can see the full history of cards. You can change the skin on your background, etc. Awesome app. New set analytics now inside there to see total set value, which we all know is so important to Pokemon card investing. So I urge everyone to download that. Right, number 1. This is where I'd put my number. money. First one is Bubble Mew. So Paldean Fate's going out of rotation. This is the most expensive one on my list. It's $291 US raw, but I can see this card maybe upticking and stabilizing somewhere around a $400 US raw card. Beautiful Pokemon. So let's tick off that list. Does it have nice artwork? It's got different artwork. Personally, I wouldn't say it's nice, but it's different. There's something unique about it. So the artwork is a tick. Does it have a popular Pokemon tick? Is it about to go out of rotation? Yes. What are the pull rates like? It's not the easiest card to pull. So as a result, I would gamble on that one going up. Second one on my list is the Garchomp EX from Paradox Rift. We've had Cynthia's Garchomp come out from the Team Rocket set, which is getting massive, massive prices go for it. This is a special illustration rare from Paradox Rift. It's only sitting at $26 US, about to go out of rotation. Does it have the nicest artwork? Yeah, it's probably 50-50. Is it a fan favorite popular Pokemon? Again, it's probably 50-50. Pull rates, it is a special illustration rare. For that reason though, look, the price reflects probably where it sits there at $26, but I think there is some room for growth on that card. Now, I've got 3 from 151 now coming up. So the first one being the Zapdos at $45. Once 151 goes out of rotation, I can actually see a lot of cards upticking in price. I wouldn't say rapidly, but I can see them slowly climbing up, and I think Zapdos is one of those. This is a beautiful card with the 3 birds on there. Look at like the stained glass bird trio from Hidden Fates, the pricing that card's been performing at over the last few months. That has shot up in price massively, both as a raw copy and as a PSA 10 copy, and that proves, even if it's been printed to the absolute moon, like that is literally in every Elite Trainer box, we can still see massive growth once it starts getting older. The second one from 151 I would choose is the Charmander at $40. Just a beautiful little card, and it shows that, you know, we've seen the Squirtle and the Bulbasaur from, Stellar Crown. We've also seen how well the Charmander promo from Obsidian Flames performs out of the Elite Trainer box, so it shows, you know, it doesn't need to be Charizard to be a big performing card. I can see Charmander upticking to like a $60 US card in the not too distant future. And speaking of Team Rocket, Giovanni's Charisma, if you want to go down the lower end at a $12 card, seems like a little bit undervalued there and a little bit of a play there. You know, could it go to $15, $20, $25 US? Quite possibly. And the next one I would choose is from Obsidian Flames, and that is the Ninetales. Now, a lot of these cards have been on the decline. Like, they've shot up in price and come back down. And we know maybe towards the start of this year, there's a little bit of market manipulation around singles with people buying them out and reselling them at higher prices. This isn't a video about that. I'm not going to go into the metrics or the science behind that. But Ninetales at $15, beautiful artwork, somewhat fan favorite Pokemon, about to go out of rotation. $15 seems a little bit cheap for that card. Controversial one, possibly. The 7th one on my list is Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. Now, this card has actually, again, retracted a little bit in price. It's currently sitting at $211 US. And when I talk about artwork, I mean, this one just blows probably all illustration rares so far from Scarlet and Violet are nearly out of the water. Shinji Kanda has done a fantastic job. He's a phenomenal artist and has absolutely blown that card out of the water. This was a very cheap card at launch, and this is what I mean by cards that can shoot up in price. Like, this was literally like a $14 or $18 US card at launch, and look at it now, $211 US. It's like a 1 in 650 pull rate. It's incredibly tough to gem into 10. Prices on gem mint 10s have been going at for very, very expensive prices lately. So look, is it going to become a $300 card once it goes out of rotation? Don't know, but I would be willing to take the gamble on it at around $200 US if you can pick up a copy. And finally, from Scarlet and Violet base, Drowsy. Look, it's an original 151 Pokemon. It's... What's that saying? I used to say you can't polish a turd, but look, it's not the fan favorite Pokemon from 151. In fact, it's almost like one of those forgotten about Pokemon from 151. However, when I think about illustration rares from Scarlet and Violet era, this whole new premise to the artwork of the cards, I look at some of the cards from Scarlet and Violet base, and particularly this Drowsy, and I go, you know what? The artist there has hit the nail on the head when they say, we've got this new element to Pokemon cards, which is illustration rares, where we're going to draw them in, you know, a more artistic manner in their, you know, own environment, or surrounded maybe even by people or in people's environment. And this card for me just absolutely ticks that ticks that box. Like, it hits that nail on the head where, like, the artist has gone, okay, I can do an illustration around, there's the drowsy. And everyone's gone, yeah, you've done a damn good job at that. So for that reason, I think, you know, when it went up to like $100 US, we all knew that was too dear and being manipulated, but $25 seems a little bit undervalued. I said all along when it went up to 100, like, it feels to me like it should be a $35 or $40 card. Look, it's back down to $25. It's about to go out of rotation. Perhaps it does go to a $35 or $40 card like I suggested. That's my take on singles. That's where I would bank on putting money if I had to invest in singles, is sets or cards that are about to go out of rotation with those things in mind. Nice artwork, beautiful, fan favorite Pokemon inside there, you know, some tougher pull rates. What's the gem mint rate like to get them to a 10, like the Magikarp, for example? You know, what's the supply and demand on those cards? And of course, going out of rotation. There you go. That would be my 2 cents worth when it comes to investing in singles at the moment. I'm Michael. This is Poke Oz. Catch everyone next time.